Hey everybody, so we're continuing along with our season previews before the season starts, and we are now on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Columbus made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round to eventual Stanley Cup winners Washington. Again, pretty typical Columbus season, made the playoffs and then faltered in the first round, which they seem to do quite a bit of. Bobrovsky, their goaltender, really good in the playoffs, really good in the regular season, not so good in the playoffs. It's kind of a reoccurring theme with Columbus here in recent years. John Tortorella is their coach. Last year was his first full season in Columbus. He's now going into his second full season in Columbus. We'll see if his whole demeanor and his shtick starts to wear off or not. I'll say this right up front: Columbus is one of those teams that made the playoffs last year that I think is in danger of potentially missing the playoffs this year. They're certainly not guaranteed a spot, to say the least. They're going to have to work for it. And there are questions I have with this team. So let's take a look at their lineup, see what we're working with here, and talk about the Blue Jackets. So, top line, Panarin, Dubois, and Atkinson, pretty good top line. Panarin might end up being traded, though. He doesn't want to sign long-term in Columbus. He could end up being moved during this season. Second line, Jenner, Wenberg, and Anderson. Wenberg is an up-and-coming skill player. Anderson, I think, is one of the better power forwards, young power forwards in the league. He's somebody who could develop into a Wayne Simmons type player. Boone Jenner, all heart, love that kid. Next line, Sonny Milano, Nick Foligno, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. And then the fourth line is Hannakainen, Dubinsky, and Nash. On defense, they have Werenski and Jones as their top pair, great top pair there. Then Nudavara and Savard, and Murray and Harrington rounding out the top six, with Sergei Bobrovsky in net and Korpisalo backing him up. Their extra forwards are Anthony Duclair and Lucas Sedlak, and their seventh defenseman is Dean Kukin. Alright, so there are issues I have with this team. Let's start where they're pretty solid, and that's in goal. I trust them in goal, at least for the regular season, because Sergei Bobrovsky is an elite NHL goaltender. He's really, really good, and he's proven that over the last few years. Korpisalo is an absolutely fine backup. I trust him as a backup. I would not trust him to start if something were to happen to Bobrovsky, though. But in a backup role, I'm fine with Korpisalo. So in goaltending, they're in pretty good shape until inevitably Bobrovsky struggles in the playoffs. But we'll just worry about the regular season. They're fine in net. Now, a couple of years ago, Columbus was being touted as a team with one of the best defense corps in the league, one of the youngest and best up-and-coming defenses in the league. That's kind of gone now. They've lost some pieces. Jack Johnson's gone. They had Ian Cole last year, and now he's gone. This defense has thinned out a little bit, I think. Their top pair is still young and fantastic. Zach Werenski and Seth Jones are both star defensemen. Great two-way players. I can't say enough good things about both of them. Their top pair is phenomenal. After that, though, it thins out a little bit, and I start to have some questions. David Savard's a pretty good player. He doesn't jump off the screen, though, as a, really, he doesn't really just jump off the screen and, make big plays, and he's not, really a playmaker and a huge difference maker as the third defenseman. He's a solid guy. He's a pretty good player, but he's not somebody I would trust with 23 minutes a night. Now, he's on the second pair. He doesn't have to do that the way Werenski and Jones do, but you're already starting to see a downturn in their defense as you get to the second pair. Then Nudavara, I don't know if he's a top 4 defenseman. I haven't seen enough of him in big spots, in a big role, if he truly can be a top 4 defenseman. Now, he's only 24, he's still developing, so presumably he hasn't played his best hockey yet, so maybe he can be, and he's going to show it this year, but it's still a question mark because we haven't seen it yet. So this is a really big year for Nudavara because he's getting put in a big spot that he hasn't really been in before. So it's going to be, he's going to be a guy to watch this year. And then Ryan Murray and Scott Harrington as a bottom pair, that's fine. They're both perfectly suited on the bottom pair. That's where they both belong. So defensively, they're fine on defense. They're good, but they're not, I don't think, at the level of some other teams in their conference, the way like a Tampa Bay is, or other teams with really, really strong defense cores. They have a really good top pair, and then after that there's a little bit of a question. They're not near the top of the league as far as defense goes, but they're certainly not near the bottom. They're probably a borderline top 10 defense core, maybe just outside the top 10. So they're good, they're fine, but it's not anything spectacular. And then up front is where my real questions are: who is going to score goals? Offense is going to be an issue for this team, and offense is the main reason I think that they could end up missing the playoffs this year. I just don't know who's going to score goals. I mean, Panarin and Atkinson on your top line, they're going to score 30 goals each at least, probably. But after that, I don't know. There are questions there. There are guys who can score goals. Josh Anderson can score goals. Boone Jenner can score goals. Nick Foligno can score goals. Sonny Milano hopefully will continue developing and start producing more offensively, as with Oliver Bjorkstrand. But they're all question marks. It's if they can score goals. They have the potential to, but they're certainly not guaranteed to. Panarin, you're going to get goals from. Atkinson, you're going to get goals from. The rest of them, it's kind of a question. Will we or won't we? If you do, Columbus is in really good shape. They've got 3 solid scoring lines, and they can be a playoff team and a team that could potentially make a run. If they don't get scoring outside of their top line, they're not going to the playoffs, because one line cannot carry you to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. It's just too good, especially in the Metro Division. It's too good to get carried to the playoffs by one line. So that secondary scoring is definitely going to be something to watch with this team. If they get it, I think they're right back in the playoffs and in really good shape. If they don't get it, I think that they're a candidate to drop out of a playoff spot. And that would definitely not be good for John Tortorella or any of the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're certainly not good for their veteran core players for them to have a setback like that, not making the playoffs. Brandon Dubinsky is getting paid over $5 million a year, and he is now a fourth-line center. This is a big year for Brandon Dubinsky. Last year, his year got ruined by injuries. He's aging at this point. He is not the Brandon Dubinsky from the New York Rangers of, 7-8 years ago. He's an older player now. He's a veteran leader. He's certainly a leader on this team, but he's getting paid a lot of money, and to be at this point a fourth line center, you need to get some secondary scoring from him to even justify his contract. So secondary scoring is my biggest question mark with this team. I also don't think that their defense is as good as people make it out to be outside of their top pair. Their top pair is absolutely phenomenal. After that, I think there are some questions. Goaltending, they're in fine shape. So overall, I think this is a borderline playoff team. They certainly could make the playoffs and have the chance to, like they did last season. They also could drop out. And I think the main issue with this team is going to be goal scoring. Can they get secondary scoring from people other than their first line? And if the answer is yes, then they're probably back in the playoffs. If the answer is no, they're probably not. So that's what I've got on Columbus. Let me know what you think about the Blue Jackets down in the comment section below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.